couple of years, I've been working on an issue I had from experiences working at an organic farm and a CSA, a permaculture CSA. They were both in Oregon. One was Persephone Farm in Lebanon, Oregon, near Sweet Home, and then the other one was the Portland Permaculture Institute in Portland, Oregon. And if you've watched my other videos, you'll know that I made the point that these farmers, they're just displaced workaholics from the corporate world, and they wear shabby clothing or you know, are into certain alternative ideals, and they may like having a Democrat for president. However, when it comes to the workers, it's like we're serfs and they are the Lord rulers. And it was just such a shock for me about this contradiction, because I had worked at a number of retreat centers, so there was an understanding that people need to take breaks and drink water and take care of their body. And when I worked at these two different places, that just went out the window. It was just like amazing to me, and it just has haunted me that I was subject to that, and also that I just didn't have the wherewithal, the strength to fight the power, so to speak. And what I found was difficult in the first situation is that I was in a remote location at Persephone Farm, because with that, when you're volunteering or working as an apprentice somewhere remotely, your boss can become a law unto themselves, which is just kind of dangerous, I think, because when the farmers, the people in charge, don't have any social structure, it's like, you know, that phrase, power corrupts, absolutely, you know, when you have power, or Lincoln says, you know, you want to see, like, I forget, but it's just like, in these situations, these bosses do have a lot of power when you're living somewhere 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, for, you know, 7 months on end, and when you actually need this job, when you don't have a home to go back to, or you don't have funds, or whatever. When you're in between a rock and a hard place, these remote job situations, you know, such as at an organic farm, can be to the worker's detriment, in my experience. And they become a law unto themselves, especially, I think, if there is no community, if there's no kind of community control, or the word judgment comes to my mind. I've experienced this myself. Like, if somebody has complete power and they don't have anybody to answer to, people are going to abuse that power, and organic farmers are no exception. And in my experience working at these places, there was bullying that was perpetuated with workers, including myself and others. Of course, playing favorites, politics was rampant. So there was the golden boy who kissed up to the manager and actually liked, you know, wanted to learn how to be this competitive or bloodthirsty, or I don't know what it is. You know, he just felt that there was you know, it just fit for his belief system or his lifestyle, you know, because he wanted to become a farmer, so he wanted to learn how, quote unquote, it was done. So I think what also bothers me is the idealization that organic farmers or people with CSAs get. It's like, you know, you think that these farmers are ideal people, and they're not. You know, that's what just torments me. It's like, these people are just as bad as Bush. You know, they may you know, talk a different thing, but they're just as bad. And you know, so the bullying, the sexual harassment that, you know, it can occur, and there's just not a strong social structure that keeps the managers, like in line. And I wrote a little description of on my other YouTube video. It's just like, when was the other, what were other times in our American history where something like that occurred, where one person, one group, one person had all the power, and then the others didn't. We saw that in racism. We saw that in sexism. We see it in every other ism in our society, and I feel like the organic farm workers or the people who are working in remote areas are exploited, or they have a great potential to be exploited, and they have to have incredible self-esteem and a sense of entitlement in order to fight exploitation, and I just think that is unfair. And I mean, maybe, if we were put in the same position as these managers, we would be just as full of bullying and scapegoating and sexual harassment and general abuse. And another thing I wanted to post on a video is that working at a farm is an incredibly labor-intensive job. Now, if you're, I think the only thing I can equivocate it to is if you are training, if you're an Olympic athlete or just an athlete who is intensely training 55 hours a day, that is what it's like working at a farm. And there's this, almost a military kind of, military puritanical way of being, that people have to keep their hands busy every moment. And, going to the bathroom, drinking water, looking around, chatting with your coworker, that can actually be considered interfering with production. And I think that's what's my problem, is that with these organic farms, permaculture, CSAs, is that it's produce over people. It's product over people. It's profit over people. That's it. And most another layer of what I find difficult about this situation is that this is 55 hours a week of hard labor, very intense physical activity. So, taking care of bodily needs such as bathroom breaks, hydration, a break just to look around, is very hard on a body. And we are not in a healthy environment, so we're subject to extraordinary stress, and then we're also subject to the pollution in our environments, whether it's our water or our food or the air we breathe. And so most of us have some type of imbalance, like a glandular imbalance, or something wrong with the joints in our body, or our blood pressure. And the overtraining that's demanded by a farm job can be crippling. I have been handicapped after this job. I haven't been able to physically, my stamina has deteriorated, as well as my joints, my knees and my shoulders and my neck have been damaged by this job. And if a physical therapist or a nutritionist were to look at what is expected from workers at a farm, they would require workers take intense supplementation. We'd have to have serious rejuvenative practices, which isn't what's going on at these organic farms. And I have a bachelor's degree. I have, the privilege of an educated person. But there are a lot of people who are immigrants, particularly Mexican immigrants, who are illegals, and they are going through the same thing. And I can't imagine what support they get. And so I just think that that is just it's a travesty about this whole slow food movement with organic foods, because these farmers who are exploiting people know that they are pretty much safe from reprimands, because it is very difficult to prove what they've done. Because when somebody from the from the Occupational Health and Safety Act, when somebody comes, of course, then the farmer puts on this whole performance, which I have seen. And they basically, play like they're really nice people until the representative goes, and then they're back to business, basically. And I just feel like it's a crime. I feel like, there are human rights violations that go on at these farms and worker violations. And this is stuff that's listed on ATRA, and this is stuff that's listed on WOOF, the Willing Workers on Organic Farms. So I just think it's, if you are considering doing this kind of work, you really should know what you may be contending with. And there may be a handful of great employers out there. I have worked at a lot of different places. And, I just have found the farmers to be the worst, frankly. Just they have some weird brainwashing that they don't think that people need to take care of themselves or deserve respect. And what they consider respect is way below what the average one of us deserves. So I just want to put a warning out there to people, and give people a heads up too that are spending a lot of money on organic farms. Like my research is that Costco, they pay people a living wage. It's a good work environment. They are also they're easy to hold accountable if there's any problems. Whereas remote farms, there's nobody to hold accountable. OSHA, they'll do something maybe once a year, if that. And I mean, when I spoke to OSHA, they were annoyed with me